Some homes sound like a great deal until they don't. Title issues, permit issues, and even other legal issues blow up these types of closings and cause unnecessary delays. These are 5 homes I would never buy as a real estate closing attorney. I'm attorney Kishore Kapoor, a residential real estate closing attorney here in the state of Connecticut. And let me tell you about the 5 homes I would never buy and why. So the first type of home I would never buy is a foreclosed property or a property that's owned by an REO or the government. And here is why. They sound like great deals, but they're not always great deals. You got to think about it. Why is a bank going to sell a house less than it's worth when they've got a debt that they've got to recover? They want top dollar for these properties. And they're typically run down and there's issues with them because if you think about it, if somebody got foreclosed, what else did they not pay? They are as-is deals. And unlike my other videos where I talk about as-is being kind of flexible and a little bit of a myth, these are the type of as-is deals that really get treated as is. You don't get anything fixed. If there's a problem, you're dealing with it. And there's always typically fine print that gets missed. And most importantly, they're time of the essence, which means if you don't close on time, you could lose your deposit, lose the deal, or you might have to pay a fee to extend the closing. So let me tell you about my client, Fred. Fred had bought a house from an REO, which is just an organization that holds bank-owned properties. Well, put together a contract. Fred went through and read everything, or so I thought he read everything. We went through it all, but Fred missed and didn't pay attention when I told him the appliances weren't included. Fred always just assumed they're there, so why not? I think he didn't trust me 100% on it, but that happens. You think you know more because you check ChatGPT or AI or the internet and you find out an answer that's not always accurate. Kind of what I think Fred did, but he wouldn't admit to it. So Fred went through the process. We found the house. He found a house that was owned by the bank and put an offer in, got accepted. Everything was going smooth. Till the walkthrough, when one of the appliances went missing. Fred suspects that the listing agent stole it, but I told him that seemed unlikely. I wouldn't see somebody risking their license. The door had been pushed open the night before closing, so it's just propped open. Maybe somebody didn't close it, maybe somebody broke in. I don't know, but what we do know is the stainless steel stove was missing. Fred has his own theories, and I said it doesn't actually matter who did it, what happened. It's gone. That's what we need to focus on. Well, we go back to the mortgage company, and I tell them, listen, the appliances are missing, and they said, we don't care. The contract says that they're not included. They're not included. There's nothing we can do. I don't have a legal leg to stand on. The good part, though, was they offered Fred to get his deposit back. So Fred took his deposit and walked away. The bad news was Fred wasted 60 days of his life looking for this house and getting it all under contract, only for it to fall apart. That unfortunately happens. That's why one of the reasons why I will never buy a foreclosed property. There's too many unknowns. And I've got countless stories of issues that go wrong with foreclosed properties. Unless you're an investor, I don't think it's a good idea. And I, as a real estate attorney, would never personally buy one. The other type that's similarly related is called a short sale. This is a situation where somebody owes a debt on the property that is worth more than the property. They're underwater. And what happens is they go to the bank and say, I want to try to negotiate and sell this property and kind of get out underneath it. And depending on the situation, some banks say yes and some say no, but it's a process. And the part you got to understand is we submitted the offer to the mortgage company that holds the debt. They take 30, 60, 90, 180 days to review everything, look at the financial situation of the seller, see what we can do. This is not a situation where a seller is just going to say, okay, I'll pay money and come out of pocket. This is a situation where the seller is in under their head and they don't have extra money to pay it. So problems that come up here is it takes a lot of time. There are extra expenses you may not be aware of that come up. And there's a possibility that the mortgage company doesn't even approve it. Let me tell you a story to kind of explain this a little bit better. I have a client, Tanya. Tanya was selling her parents' house, put it under the market, got an offer. Mortgage company actually rejected the first offer 60 days in. Okay, that's quick, so it worked out for our favor. Buyer comes back a higher number, it works out, bank accepts it, we keep moving forward. They negotiate with all the other creditors on the land records, we work everything out. except for the water bill. The water bill was $13,000. The mortgage company said, we're not paying $13,000. Sorry. We'll cover 10. We'll approve 10. Now, the problem is the water company doesn't care. They want their money. So now the buyer either had to agree to A, they came up in purchase price, and B, they now needed to come up with another $3,000. That hurts. You're not getting the deal you got anymore. And just like with foreclosures, if somebody's in a short sale situation, they're probably neglecting the property. So you're getting a property that's already distressed, may not be worth what you think. So if you're okay with waiting, yeah, it works. Are you okay with unknowns? I know I'm not. And that's the reason I would never buy one. So that's why short sales, in my view, are not the best investment. Properties that are haunted or somebody died in, I will never buy those. Forget the stigmatism around them. I'm terrified of buying a property like that. That's just me. Let's start with that. But the other part of this is a seller does not have to disclose to you that the property is haunted or somebody died there, unless you ask specifically. Now, here's the problem with these properties. They become famous and then the value drops, right? They end up on true crimes or one of these ghost hunter shows, and now people realize and find out that your property is haunted. Now, that property just dropped in value to most people, right? I'm not buying a haunted house. I'm superstitious. I'm not doing it, right? Just not happening. But for somebody that's interested in that stuff, it might be a great deal. But the most of Americans aren't going to buy that house. So you're going to lose value, and you might not find out if you don't ask the question. So I recommend starting to ask, if it's important to you, did somebody die in the house, or is the house haunted? Because a seller does not have to disclose that without asking. The last type of property I would not buy is something that's in probate. So probate is the process of transferring somebody that's passed or somebody that's incapable their property over to somebody else, or selling it off in our situation. It's time consuming. It's stressful. I don't think I've seen a property that's been in probate close shorter than 60 days. For the average person buying their first home, it's a lot. Buying a first home or buying a home in general is stressful. Add in there's unknowns and there's delays. So depending where you are in Connecticut, the probate court always has to approve the sale, or almost always, right? For our example, just assume it's always. And if you err on that side, you're always in a better position. But there are situations where the probate estate can be sold without probate court approval. If it requires probate court approval, the problem is it's another 30-day delay. The other issue is that there are certain documents in probate that need to be filed before we can close. One is called the certificate releasing the estate tax lien. That's a mouthful, I know. But what you need to know about that is it's placing a hold on the ability for the owner of the property, the estate, to sell it without clearing this debt or this lien. What happens in Connecticut is when somebody dies, they automatically put a hold or a lien on every property that the person owned to make sure that the estate tax fees and the probate court fees are paid. The problem here is there's documents that need to be filed, and most executors or administrators, which are the two people in charge of the estate, don't always get these done in a timely manner. They get delayed, and we can't close without it in place, and that takes time. This is the big problem. All of these situations, it's about time. If you have time on your hands, great. I don't like the unknown. I don't like delays. It causes me stress. So I'm not going to add more stress to my life when I'm already in the process of doing something that's stressful. As always, if you found this information useful, be sure to give us a follow, because every day we share real life stories from real closings, so you know exactly what to expect and you don't end up a story on my channel. And you can close with confidence and zero surprises. And if you ever heard the words as is and you thought it meant had no options, watch this video next where I debunk this myth of real estate. And it's one of the biggest myths in real estate.